What do I do if the groom doesn't want to participate in the planning? What do I do if the mother, the whatever, drinks too many whatevers? Insert cocktail here. What if there's family fighting? What about the catering? What about the toast? Do I have to do a toast? Do I have to toast with champagne from France? You have the knowledge. From there, my goal today is to talk to you about publicity, which we'll define in a few minutes. I want you to use that as a strategy to gain what's called social proof. Social proof is everybody saying you're great. Social proof are the testimonials. It's the editors who are quoting you. It's the weddings that you're showcasing. What that leads to is the bookings. You've got the knowledge. You utilize publicity, which anybody can do. You're going to have such a wealth of resources at the end of this. I'm just going to be pounding your inbox really hard with all sorts of things. From there, it's the social proof that leads to the bookings. Now, it's not lost on me that this is not necessarily the off season. I don't know if you guys get that, where people are like, oh my God, you must be so relieved the end of the off season. No. My first year in weddings, in January, in venues, I, who won most talkative in grammar school and high school, lost my voice. From the wedding shows, from the prospects, from the things. And I thought, this thing about being an off season is a farce, right? So I know there's a responsibility for me to come up here and say, I know you're regrouping. I know you've got the prospects, but I want to add something. Let me add something else to your plate before you head into the busy season. But I wouldn't be up here if I didn't see it work time and time again with my clients, with the venues I've worked with, and so forth. We're going to start with a few statistics. Now, I will tell you, I pulled this from Splendid Insights. I love her. She has a wonderful consumer report every year about couples and how they purchase and all those things. Fun fact, yesterday, I'm just going through the slides one more time as one does, and the owner of Splendid Insights texts me. She's like, hey, girl, I got the new global report for this year. And I'm like, I'm excited, best day of the year, but also I'm not updating my slides. She's like, it's 72 pages instead of 36. I'm like, again, I'm not downloading this. I don't need to know. So these are from last year. I shall update these and report back, but they should be pretty similar. So what we hear from Lynn is this: 30% of couples say a prospective vendor's press matters. Doesn't mean it always matters 100%, but it matters in some way. If it's you versus another venue, and they see a slew of places where they've been featured, or they see you as that expert, that could potentially push them over if most other things are very similar. In addition, 29% of couples find vendors through actual features. Now, we're going to talk about that a little bit. The idea of you've got gorgeous events, they show up in beautiful local, national niche. Couples go there to shop. And I'll tell you right now, when it comes to those features, not everybody gets the benefit of those features. I think we all know what a real wedding feature is, the idea. You've been tagged in them, all those things. But a couple goes there, and the people who will benefit the most tend to be planners, photographers, venues, and I would say florists and designers as well. Because someone sees that venue and thinks, oh my gosh, where is this? This is what I want. I want to shop this. But there's so much more that goes above and beyond that when it comes to the press, when it comes to getting quoted and the thought leadership and the social proof. It starts with something I know very little about. Bear with me. That's called building credibility first thing in the morning. SEO and Google rankings. We hear time and time again from many wonderful sources that Google is where the couples go most of the time. It's Google and then it's referrals. Everything I've ever seen says that. I am not an SEO expert. I can send you to SEO experts, but I know enough to make me slightly dangerous in the Google sphere of the world, okay? And what I know is this. When you're trying to rank on Google, one of the top ways you can rank is to get what's called backlinks. People link to you. I guest blog on Brian's blog, and I get a link back. I get featured on something, I get a link back. The more of those that you get over time, that is going to continue to move you up when paired with a great SEO ranking. I finally, after 11 years, got quoted by the New York Times recently, and I shot right up. I've always been kind of competitive in the number 2, 3 spot. Baby, I'm sitting at 2. I'm never getting 1, guys, but I'm sitting at 2, and I'm sitting proud at 2 right now. Backlinks. It also helps boost referrals. I know the relationship with planners is interesting. I mean, ask me last night with some wine, I would have different words about that. But the fact of the matter is, we do live by referrals, potentially other venues, potentially planners, and then couples as well. When you go out there and you help the rest of the vendor team shine with features, they are going to remember that. I work with a lot of venues, and I've got to tell you, there's nothing like going to them at the end of the day, the venue's going to the couples saying, how was it? And they gush, gush, gush. But imagine 6 months later. Imagine 6 months later when you get to go to them and say, guess what? We ended up getting you featured in Style Me Pretty. Guess what? You're in Insert Magazine here. To stay top of mind. Because when we leave their top of mind, that's when they leave and don't think of the referral. And finally, like we talk about, it's the social proof. I go on stage and I talk about the generational shifts we're seeing, the industry shifts that we're seeing with today's consumer. And one of the top things I see time and time again with all the research, with all the anecdotes, couples these days need to know everybody's talking about you in a good way. They need to know you're great. I always say, you want to be the toothpick on Amazon that has 2,000 reviews. Everything on Amazon has 1 million reviews, right? That's what you want. You want everybody to say they're fantastic. The as seen in. When they come in, it's irrefutable that you're the place where they can trust to have what they've been told is the happiest day of their life, which we've got to stop with that, by the way, but that's a different conversation for another time. So first, let's understand the discipline. If we're going to talk about taking our knowledge and utilizing publicity, I want to take a second to talk about what publicity is. And I didn't know we had a fellow JMU alum in the room, so I'm actually going to use an anecdote that no one ever gets. I don't know if anybody else went to JMU, but Mark did, and I am so excited. He and I are going to have like a 3-hour talk later, so we'll get into that. But here's the thing. I went to school for publicity. I went to the Harrison building and wore something probably a step above PJs, right? That was the world of PR. Over in marketing, that was Zane Shoker, right? Those guys wore suits. Those gals wore suits. Those people wore suits. They were all dressed up. I don't know why. They were not going for a job interview. They were going to their class, but they were very different disciplines. Then what happened is we get out of school, we graduate, and then the marketing kids and the PR kids get all thrown in together, and suddenly we're considered the same thing. And that is not how it actually works in the real. I was shocked when people are, are you in marketing? I'm like, no, PR. But people use it interchangeably. So it's my responsibility to really break it down a little bit more. So we're going to talk very briefly to build a baseline. Marketing, advertising, PR. What are the difference? What are we talking about here? Marketing, don't ask me to do the 5 Ps, but you've probably learned about the 5 Ps in school. It's going to be about your pricing and your placement. It's going to be pretty much the all-encompassing. It's the social media. It's going to be the email marketing. A great example here, which I know is hard to see, it's actually Dana's venue here. It's their social media. That is going to be marketing, that promotional wing to your company, which is different than advertising. Advertising, and again, a little hard to see here, but this is the Bradford. It is a not listing. Okay? That is when you have a message that says, I'm great. And you're trying to get it out to an intended audience, and you're paying for that privilege. You are paying for that placement. PR is going to look a little bit different, okay? PR says this, I have a message. I'm trying to get out to this intended audience. And I'm utilizing the media to do that. There's no exchange of money. Unless I'm hiring someone, there's no exchange of money. I'm putting myself out there. I'm pitching my story. I'm pitching what I know. They're going to interview me about reception trends, which this is actually a recent not feature we did that was on reception trends. But at the end of the day, the output comes from the writer. There's no control over it. You may say to me, well, advertising is the same, right? You get the message. You're trying to get out to the audience. Yes, but at the end of the day with advertising, you are paying for the privilege of knowing exactly what comes out. If you were advertising with Knot, you know exactly what your profile is going to look like. You have control over the photos that are good. This is not a Knot advertisement, by the way. Tom, I knew you're in the room, but it really was planned like this. You know what photos you're going to put on there. You have control over what you're going to say. But when you tell someone a page of all the reception trends you're seeing, I don't know if anyone's seen Caterpillar tables, but that's the trend for this year. But you're going to do a whole page with them, and they're going to pick 3 sentences and call it a day. No control. But the benefit is this. At the end of the day, advertising is saying you're good. It's me saying I'm good. PR is when someone else says that you're good. and they work together. A lot of people think on the publicity side that we don't like advertising. That's not true. I have an advertising budget. There are times where I need to control the message going out, and there are times when I benefit from someone just taking my gobbledygook words and turning it into a feature. They work together. So let's talk about prepping. We are venues with expertise. We're venues with a story. Let's go ahead and put ourselves out there. And I will say, even at this hour, with just a little bit of caffeine in us, I know how it works with conferences. We go to things, we get very inspired, and we're ready to go out the door and start pitching things, right? Oh, I have this idea. I'm inspired. I'm going to go pitch later this afternoon. I would warn you against that. I know we get excited about going out and doing the thing that we learn at the conferences, but PR takes time. My husband jokes, I'm incredibly impatient, but when it comes to PR, I think I exercise all my patience over here. There are 3 things I need you to think about. If you're looking into getting into the world of the as seen in, sharing your reception trends with New York Post, New York Times, whatever, which can all be very doable for you in the room. And I mean that. You need to start with your goals. Why, in this world of prospecting and networking and my social media, and now you're telling me I might have to do TikTok or Reels or whatever, you're telling me to do PR on top of that. What has to happen for any of that to be a success? If you're looking to put time into pitching yourself some local stories, pitching yourself as an expert in catering, reception, whatever, doing those wedding submissions, what has to happen for it to be a success? You really need to sit down and do that. I tell people, you need to look at your goals from a PR as well as a business standpoint and say, I'm here, doesn't mean it's my first day as a venue, but it means it's a day in my life where I'm at. I need to get over here, and I need to do the things to get me over there. For some venues, it's actually selling their venue down the road, and so they want that press. For others, it's an SEO strategy. Listen, I need to get to the top of Google. I'm sick of this bottom of page 1 crap, right? What has to happen for this all to be a success? Next, your brand, which I think we're going to have some great people talking about here. Here's the thing. If you are going to go out there and you're going to really jump into anything in the promotional side of things, right? PR, marketing. I'm going to do more social media stuff. I'm going to do more SEO stuff. You have to make sure your brand is converting. This is the time to look at yourself and say, I am projecting X as a venue, but what do I really want to put out there? How many times, and I'm not asking you to raise hands, you can just kind of nod or go, yeah, no, this is me. You've got gorgeous galleries from this year that the photographer finally handed over to you, but you haven't updated your website with it. How many times do you look at your logo and say, oh, I know it's getting a little dated? What about your company profile? What about the bios of your team? What about your site in general? Where are you at with that? Because here's the thing. I don't want you touching PR. I don't want you touching any of this thought leadership stuff until you are about 90% there on your site. Because what we're going to do, anytime you do press, social proof, any of that, it's sending people to 2 places. Two places. Your website, typically your Instagram in our world, right? If you do all the effort to get quoted, all the efforts to be seen, and someone goes to your site and it's not where you need it to be, then why are we doing it? I just went through a major rebrand about a year ago. I'm traumatized. My checkbook's traumatized from it, but I know it was a good investment. But I was very careful not to hit the podcast running and the speaking until I was really sure that's where it was, because I don't want people to go to my site and say, I don't understand what this is. And that's what I want for you guys. So before you do anything, in addition to asking yourself, what has to happen for this to be a success? I want you to look at your brand. It doesn't have to be perfect. Mine's never going to be perfect, and I know that. I've made my peace with it. But you need to update those galleries of the gorgeous weddings. If your blog says last post January 5th, 2021, y'all, we're going to have to update that. Make sure you've got the right look. Finally, content. I need to know you are an expert at what it is that you do. Ben, I sounded so casual with Mr. Franklin over there. Either write something worth reading or do something worth writing about. Now, you're in at an advantage. I'll be honest. It's hard to explain what a planner is to people if they haven't worked with a planner before. I think we got it better, the people on the outside during the pandemic, but these days it's like, wait, what do they do again? A venue, I get it. A venue, you can see it. There are pictures, there are bricks or things, and we get it. So you have that advantage. But to be able to show you know what you're talking about is going to be the top thing you do after you worry about your goals and brands, okay? And I'm going to tell you, I did a little bit of snooping, a little bit. And we all are a work in progress about this. I'll be honest, because I pulled some examples, and some of the examples I pulled from the last time because I couldn't find quite what I needed here. Here's the thing. If you're going to pitch yourself, you're going to put yourself out there. You say, I'm an expert at this. We need to see it. You can't just say, oh, I've been doing weddings for 10 years. Okay, but what do you know? Like, show me what you know. You need to be able to showcase that. I'll tell you about reporters, something like this. If you are on the first page of Google in your area for what you do, you are more likely to have a reporter come scope you out. They're going to find you. Something going to happen. I'm going to tell you the next big thing. Can anyone guess what the next big thing in the what's the national thing that's going to hit? Anyone want to guess? What's the national thing that's going to hit that we're, don't say another pandemic. That's not funny. Too early for that. Taylor Swift getting married. I promise you right now, and I'm not jinxing it, she's married. She's dating that sports ball guy who's real cute. I'm not a football person, but he's cute. My family loves football. I know nothing, but I was like, what about that Travis Kelce? They're Patriots fans, so they hate me right now. But anyways, that's between me and my therapist. If they get engaged, that will be the equivalent of our royal wedding. I promise you. I see it. If it's those two and they don't do, I hope they secretly get married. First of all, I hope they are already married and we don't even think about it. But if they do, this will be the next Harry and Meghan. And the reporters will start looking for venues and wedding pros in their region. And they're going to be like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about this? I promise you, I lived it. I'll never forget. It was the Monday after Thanksgiving, 2018. And they're like, Prince Harry is engaged. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to literally be my life for the next 5 months. And it was. So my point is on this diatribe of Taylor Swift, I didn't know we were going down this road, was that you need to make sure on your site it's very evident that you know what you're talking about. So when the reporters come to you, that you're ready and they see that you're the expert that you are. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. And again, for those who came a little late, you will go ahead and get this PDF available to you afterwards. So Ian, who you guys hopefully will get to hear speak later, he's wonderful. They're down in Texas. They have a fabulous blog. And I know what you're thinking, blogs. Believe me, I think, God, blog. But hear me out. When I went, not only do they showcase beautiful weddings, but this one is a complete guide to the 2025 wedding dates. When you go to their site, it's a beautiful estate. It's also everything you need to know about planning your wedding from a venue standpoint. That's what we aspire to. That's what we try to build time for. Even once a month, putting something out there. Having a team member, something. So when I come to your site, when a reporter comes to your site, it is evident that you understand venues. I thought the date thing was perfect. People get very surprised by bank holidays sometimes. And so it's our job locally. I'm in Richmond, shout out Richmond. We used to do dates that were related to the Richmond Marathon because the marathon basically went by the hotel. So things like that, that's what they're looking for. Next, if you are not a writer or you don't have someone on your team or the bandwidth to hire someone, which is fine, perhaps you're a talker. Perhaps you also won all of the most talkative elementary school, high school, whatever hat trick that I did. Video is huge. Putting yourself or someone you trust in front of a camera, in front of their phone to just talk. I'll tell you right now, again, when we get into the world of the shifts we're seeing, short form video is it. It's the way people are taking anything in. If anything to say about my 11-year-old's potential YouTube addiction, it's not going anywhere. These guys, they take in video. So video's more your thing. Nuage Designs does a really great job. Now, I know they're not a venue, but I'm sure many of you have worked with Nuage or know the brand. They do a fabulous job. Go check them out. They showcase what's big, what's trending. They talk about their products and so forth. If that's more your speed, that's fine. My biggest takeaway from this part of the talk is this. If you want to go out there and leverage your thought leadership, which is why you're here today, you got to show it to me first. I need to know. When you come to Meghan Neely's OFD consulting site, you know I talk about PR. You know that's my thing. So what's your thing and what it is you're going to talk about? Finally, we need to change our mindset about press. If we're going to put ourselves out there, if we want to get featured, if we want that social proof, we often think the press is the enemy. And there's good reason for that. Because some of the crap we see that comes out, it's like, you've got to be kidding me. Now, I'm dating myself, and I don't need to raise a hand, but even just a careful nod if you remember. I don't know if anyone remembers, I'm this many years old, but many years ago, 2020, did an expose on the wedding industry and said, if you go in and say the word wedding, the price is like 5 times the cost. So call it a birthday or a college reunion, right? I'm sure there's some recognition of that remembrance, right? Because that happened and I found it. I didn't grab the video. I'm going to read this to you because this is worth seeing. Even if you can't see it, you got to hear it from me. This is an excerpt from this article. And thank goodness this person is not in this room, but I look forward to the day when they are. And they're like, hey, I said that. So this was in the 2020 article. I'm going to read it to you. Don't drive your fancy car and wear your designer clothes to your vendor appointments. We've actually spoken to florists, for example, who say that the price of flowers that they quote a bride can change depending on what the bride drives up in. Take the bus. What? Oh my God. No wonder people don't trust the media when people write it. And it doesn't just end there. It's the, hey, you back in the day, it was the old, don't get a DJ, have an iPod, have a Spotify list, treat the catering tasting like a date and bring your entire family. Like, what? Buy your own linens. Don't even get me started on buy your own. Who's going to buy those linens after? Anyways, they're always shocked when you're like, yeah, but you have to pick them up at the end of it. Anyways. For every one of these articles, though, I promise, as someone who's a voracious reader of the wedding media, for every one, there's going to be 5 to 10 articles that do it right. And we have to remember that. I think back to a bunch of years ago, I did this series of floral articles I was helping a writer with. And I sat down with Cece, who was doing this with me, and she's very opinionated. And she was so good. She told me all the things and all her answers. And then she says, Meghan, I'm going to give you all these spring trends, color palettes, all this. But do you know what we need to talk about? We need to talk about the floral shortage. This was about 2021, 2022. We need to talk about how during the pandemic, a bunch of the floral fields, I don't know if you know this, get ready for a little cocktail hour chit chat you can use, icebreaker. So a lot of the floral fields stopped selling flowers and growing them and grew pot instead and did so well, they never came back to the wedding industry. I mean, it's true. And so I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the shortages. I want to talk about how peonies are available for 3 seconds every year, right? At the end, I want to talk about replacements. I want to talk about silk flowers. Just a little bit, just a skosh. Up here real high, so you can't touch them and know that they're actually silk flowers, right? So we went to the writer and said, here's all your stuff about spring colors and winter trends. But hey, Jen, I think we need to educate people about the shortages in florals in this and that. And that turned into a 3-article series for brides.com. The writers want to hear from you. They want, at the end of the day, because they don't know what they don't know. Most of them have never been in events before. I leverage the fact I was in events every single day of my life. The amount of times I'm educating a wedding writer who's never been in weddings would astound you. Okay? And so at the end of the day, this is what you need to know. PR is a battle for reality. We can be mad at the media and say, why are you talking about a Spotify list? Why are you telling them to DIY everything? But if we're not a part of it, well, shame on us. Does anyone remember Clubhouse and how that was popular for 5 minutes? I loved Clubhouse. Clubhouse took me out of my COVID loneliness for 5 minutes. I really enjoyed that. I'll never forget, there was this, I would jump into all the rooms, right? And there was one where they were furious about this wedding article. And my friend Fausto, he was running it, and he was chit-chatting, and they kind of all started talking and moaning about it. And they said, you know what we need to do? We all need to email this writer and tell them how wrong they are. And then I was like, can I get up on stage for a second? No, No, we're not going to go. PR is a battle for reality. If you're not a part of the conversation at the beginning, we can't be mad at them afterwards. And I really don't think writing the writer to tell them how horrible they are is the most effective use of our time, because then you're never going to work with them, right? I haven't done 15 years getting published everywhere by telling a writer they're not doing their job correctly. We got to work with them. So I need us to change our mindset. So there's many ways to be published as a venue and to gain that social proof. I don't expect you guys to do all these things. What I'm hoping is one thing hits you and you know, I could do that. I've got a story to tell. I have expertise. I like to talk. I want to do podcasts. That's what I hope. The good news is, the bad news is we don't have 8 hours, which is what I really wanted with you today. But the good news is I will send you an abundance of resources so that no matter what road you want to take or multiple roads, you're going to have the resources to do that. We're going to talk about pitching 3 different ways. We're going to talk about pitching your story. We're going to talk about expert resources, and we're going to talk about podcasts. In between, again, I'm going to remind you, make sure you have your media planner, because we'll take a few minutes to do that in just a few minutes here. So let's talk about pitching your story to the media. This is hard to see, but this is my friend Morgan Montgomery and the co-owner of Paisley and Jade, which is this, and her name is Perkins Morgan, which is confusing, admittedly. Specialty rentals in Richmond, Virginia. They actually come down here sometimes, so you guys might know Paisley and Jade. They're, for those who live down here, they're wonderful. Here's the thing. Bunch of years ago, 10 years ago, they came to me and said, listen, we're going to start a rental company, except we're not going to sell 5-foot rounds and Chiavari chairs. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, tell it to me again. And so really opened the idea. Well, this is in California. I was like, what are you talking about? But once I got a better handle on it, I was like, oh, you're the farm tables. You're the this. You're the church pews. You're the things. I get it. And they came to me once I finally understood it. And I said, this could be a story. Because 10 years ago, no one was doing this in Richmond. You've got these 2 young, not too young, 2 young women-owned business people they were moving to this really great area of Richmond that was a very burgeoning area called Scott's Addition. They were award-winning in their own right for other things that they were doing, and they were doing something no one talked about. It's one thing to open X, but to open a specialty vet, like no one had done that in the area. So we hit the ground running. We pitched locally, and to this day, they still get a ton of traffic from those articles from 10 years ago. We told a story that was different and unique. And I know that gets you excited, because we all sit here saying, well, I could pitch my story of how I started my venue or being a part of my venue. Let me talk to you about this for a second. We're only going to send it. Today's talk is about pitching your expertise. It's less about pitching your story, but let me tell you why. I want you all to be empowered at the idea of telling your story to the media. This is how I overcame adversity. This is how I did all the things. And you can, but there's a few things you need to ask yourself. If you have a story to tell about your venue, whether it's the origin story, which makes you sound like a Marvel superhero, your origin story, about something new that you're offering, you've got to ask yourself a few things before you do it. First and foremost, if I'm going to pitch my story, is this newsworthy? Newsworthy outside of my circle. Listen, my dad would be excited about anything I love my dad. Anything I'm doing in my business, he's so excited about, right? That's great. That's not the audience, though. What about the people outside of your immediate circle, your good friends, your family? If this is something that you're offering at your venue that no one else is doing, if your origin story is, if what you're doing is timely, I am offering something new. Oh, when did you start doing that? Well, January 2023. Okay, that's not timely. I mean in the moment. If you're offering some events that are coming up and so forth. If your origin story pulls at the heartstrings. I started this when I did this, and then I had to get loans from family. Anyway, if you pull at the heartstrings, all those 3 things, it doesn't have to be all of them, but pick one of them, that can be potentially pitched. Your story, it has to be interesting, more than outside of the circle you're in. Ideally, it's timely. And if it's not those things, you ask yourself, will this pull at the heartstrings? I'll tell you right now, in Richmond, Virginia, they are more likely, as a tertiary city, it's not the LA Times, we're dealing with Richmond.com, Richmond Family Magazine. They're more open to taking your story versus some of the larger cities. So you need to think about that as well. If this is something you want to do, and you're sitting here and you're saying, I'm inspired and this is my thing. I want to pitch myself. I have a story. I'm launching something. I'm doing something different. I have an event. Well, then we need to get you organized. And I'll give you some resources for that for the sake of time. but you need to get organized. You need to put together some sort of spreadsheet. I don't care if it's Airtable, Google Sheets, Excel, insert spreadsheet preferences here, okay? But you need to get organized and start looking, I would say, to your local media. Come talk to me if you want to talk national. That's a whole other thing, right? But if in your local area, which most of us are focused on our local region because we can't actually move our venue anywhere, if you can, that's a totally different story. But what you'll do is find contacts in the area. Who are the people who write about small businesses? Who are the people that talk about the wedding and event industry? Who are the people that their beat, which we'll talk about in a bit again, the beat is their area of expertise that they cover? Who covers the entrepreneurial story? Who covers those parts of the media? Those are the people you're looking for. You want to use keywords when searching like wedding, venue. Put your competitors and say, who's writing about your competitors? Who's writing about the other wedding people in town? Those are the folks you're going after. You're going to research them and you're going to start a conversation and tell them your story. We'll give you some resources on how to do that. I'm going to move away from this because I know this is something that is very unique to a few right now. And I want to get into how all of you should be getting published, getting that social proof. Pitching your expertise to the media. Here's the thing. I was in venues long enough to know this. You're there the entire dang time, right? I mean, not me. I actually got to leave after the cake cutting, which was amazing. But I had a little pager that would page me when things hit the fan, which it did some of the time. But you're there the whole time. Your team's there the whole time. You've seen everything from the getting ready, from the end, packing up, what to do with the flower vases. You literally are there the entire day. You're very unique. It's you. It's the planners. I would say the photographers as well. That's it. I always was jealous of the cake people, right? Because they ran. I was like, oh, that must be nice. You're going out to dinner now, aren't you? I'm going to be here. But you can use this in your thought leadership. Here's what I want you to do. If you are someone who has interest in being quoted, I will tell you right now, there are a plethora of opportunities out there for you. I am constantly chasing down anyone who's on my main email list, like my public one will see, I'm asking for help all the time with my editorial leads because there's just not enough resources out there. I'll tell you this, the media, they're always looking for resources that are people who are reliable and they know their crap. This is what I want you to do, and we're going to go through the media planner in just a second as well. First and foremost, you need to narrow your focus. You need to figure out for yourself what makes the most sense for me, because we can't be everything to everyone. Come up, narrow your focus, and determine where are the places I'd love to be featured. We all have an idea of the as seen in we'd like on our site. Whether it's a goal of ours just internally, I've always wanted to be quoted in the New York Times, whether it's a wonderful local magazine you'd love to be in, whether it's your competitors, even though maybe you're super happy for them because you're friends, but you're like, oh, that's nice that you've told them the trends when I've been in business 5 more years than you. That's fine. But that's okay too. What are the places you want to be? Narrow that focus. Am I going for online? Am I going for print? So and so forth. And you have to consider your flex. Your flex is what you know best. Now, the worst answer, but the most common answer is, well, I know everything about weddings. Ask me anything. You can put me on, I can talk about anything. Nope. You've got to narrow it down to cut back on your competition. There are things that you guys know. When I was in venues, I was not great at design, decor. My BEOs were gorgeous. My timelines were something, okay? Do you know what I was terrible at? Family drama. I don't know. Some people just love that stuff, like a moth to the flame. I worked at, I was co-catering sales at the Jefferson in Richmond. And there was me over here with my very efficient tastings and all this. And then you had Jimmy, who was a mess. I love him. Now director of catering. He's amazing. Loved family drama. If I had someone, a bride who came in and she's my mother-in-law and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, well, so do you want the salmon? Like, what are we doing here? And then Jimmy's like, tell me everything, girl. I mean, that's why his tastings were 3.5 hours because they got into that. He loved the gossip, but that was his flex. He loved troubleshooting the family stuff. I loved picking out the wines for dinner. We were just different. So what it is that is for you. And then in a moment, we'll talk about matching that flex to the beat. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to take a beat. See what I did there. And I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. I want us to work on filling this out. This is a media planner, very basic here. There's also a PDF I sent in that was editable. We're not going to go to the other pages. That's meant for you to do on your own, and I'll explain at the end. But the media planner, here's the things I want you to answer. If you were to be published, if you were to get quoted, if you were to share your expertise in which way. First question, who is my intended audience? Who are the people I'm trying to reach out to? Now, you may say, you silly, couples. Well, what about people in a position to refer business? Are you someone who wants to be in front of your peers? And that matters more. So think about that for a second. And honestly, I know we're talking about venues. It could be corporate. It could be corporate meeting planners. And I want to know your flexes. I'm going to ask you to share because you have to. That's part of it. It's required. I'm just saying. Tell me your flexes. What are some things you guys are good at? Is it the destination wedding planning portion of it? It's the catering side. Is it the timelines? Are you like Jimmy and you like handling the mother-in-law drama? Tell me with that. Tell me what outlets just off the top appeal to me and why. Are they local? Is it the coveted Martha Stewart weddings? Is it the Knot? Is it Vogue? Is it Green Wedding Shoes? I mean, you tell me. I know a lot of you are based here in North Carolina. You've got some great options here as well. And you're going to pause. I'm not going to have you fill out the bottom right now just for the sake of time. But I'll give you about 4 or 5 minutes max. I'm going to set a little timer here. Who's my intended audience? Who am I trying to reach that I want them to see me being quoted? From there, what are my flexes? Give me a few. Give me a couple. What are we good at? And then what outlets appeal to me? And if you have time, tell me why, okay? We'll give you a few minutes. If you have any questions, raise your hand. I'll come over and see you as well. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started just for a minute. I know we don't have a lot of time to do this, but it's just an exercise with a little bit of coffee in us to better determine why we're doing the thing that we're doing. There's so many times that I talk to folks, and I talk to prospects a lot, right? And I'll talk to them and say, well, where are you looking to be featured? And oftentimes they say if it's local, say local morning shows. Like I'd really love to be like back home, Virginia This Morning. And I'm sitting here going, okay, you're going after like the 25 to maybe 35-year-old set, right? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, are they watching the morning show? Are they on TV? Do they have cable anymore? I don't think they do. Why are we going in this direction? Is it more of a vanity play? Is this actually strategic? So I like this exercise to get a better feel for the right PR strategies based on who you're trying to go after. So who is my intended audience? Raise your hands for a second. How many folks said engaged couples? Do we have a few of you guys engaged couple? Did you guys get specific to the region? Yeah. So where are you guys based? You're based Arizona, right? So tell me, do you mind if I ask real quick? Is it like the Scottsdale area? Like you tell me what you guys. Yes, I remember that. So to be able to do that, do you ever find that your area is a bit of a destination as well, or do they consider it a destination from Phoenix versus other parts of the state? Just out of curiosity. Both. Okay. It might be interesting to see down the road with that for you guys. So how about over here? We had some people answer, right? Did you go into the location as well, or no? So that's where are you based? Oh, I'm sorry. Of course. So you're really looking to the Raleigh-Durham kind of market as well. How about yourself? More the Durham market. Because you guys are, it may say collectively in this area, this is a destination for some, right? So it'd be interesting to see some people when they're a destination or partial destination, like Charlottesville is, I live an hour away, they're trying to pull from DC, they're trying to pull from New York, so I'm just kind of curious. We had you guys over here, correct? Do you mind if I ask? What did you guys put? Oh, we're in Pennsylvania. Okay, wonderful. So yeah, tell me about your area. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. That leads to how many folks raised hand? Did anyone say planners, people in a position to refer business to them out of care? Okay, we had a few people. Good. You had your hand raised, sir, for a second. So can you tell me about what you put for your audience? Fantastic. And that's what I want to hear too. I think sometimes we forget the fact that we would benefit from being in front, like the corporate planners. I mean, there's so many industry publications out there looking for resources. And where are you based out of? Oh, okay. I'm going to be in Columbus in 2 weeks. I hope it's not going to be too cold. Wait, we're going to be at your venue? Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm sorry you had to see me twice, but it's a different talk. He's like, I'm not coming next time. No, I'm just kidding. That's amazing. Anybody else want to add something above and beyond? All right, let's talk about flexes. This is fun. I'll start. I'm really good at cats and Grey's Anatomy. I share Grey's Anatomy with Brian, though. What are your flexes? I'll give a Starbucks gift card to the best, most creative one. Your flex, and I'm bribing you currently with a Starbucks gift card. What would you say yours? Oh, wait. You had your hand and then you. Yeah. All right. Very good. LGBTQ. I love it, lady. You got your crap together. I like it. You're a lady after my own heart. We would have been a good little team back in the day. Very efficient. Very good. Yes. Yes, which is not an easy. I was talking to Anthony yesterday. Catering is no fun. I did catering for years. I lasted offsite catering. When I tell you 5 weeks, that was awful. But yeah, no, that's wonderful. We just did a talk with. We just did a article with Let's Get Rehearsed about doing rehearsal dinners, pros and cons of restaurants, and all of that. The food's no joke. People don't get it right now. It's the shortages. It's all I'm hearing about is the cost of eggs. It's all of those things. So very good. What else do we have? Yes. Come in and you don't have to worry about it. No, I understand that. When I worked in hotels, I worked with a lot of people who were, it was interesting. It was, yes, it was a higher budget, but these couples were working professionals slightly older than like the average Southern age bride or couple, I'm sorry, average age. And they just wanted to be easy. Lovely, but easy. Very good. Okay, back here. Yes. Yeah. I love that. Okay. Interesting. That's more B2B, I would imagine. But yeah, that's wonderful. What I like about that first one in particular, I'm going to ask you to consider expanding because this is the big thing, of course, is not just planning from afar, which I think is great. It's also going to be the weekend wedding, the experience of it. That is a shift. That's not just a trend. That's what everybody wants to do. These guys have been quiet. What do we have back? Okay, we'll go left to right, my left to right. Oh, yeah, wonderful. Dawson's Creek wasn't that filmed there? Yeah, I love it. I'm aging myself. I was like, Pacey was there. Yeah. Oh, okay, so the all-inclusive side of it is kind of your area of expertise. Oh, you've seen both sides of it. What I would encourage you to do is think about how you can narrow down what it is your flex for planning is. Because everybody comes with their own specialty. So I want you to dig in deeper, but that's very good. All right, my Arizona ladies. Yeah. Wow. Hmm. Yeah. Amazing. So would your expertise and your flex in that area, because that's a flex of the property, but I'm thinking thought leadership. I mean, it's the ins and outs of like the outdoor planning, the buttercream in the summer, the bugs, which I know you probably don't have, but I mean, you do. No, I know you do, girl. I was just trying to like sell you. But one of your thought leadership flexes would be what it's the indoor, the inclement weather and all of those things as well. So yeah, anything else you want to, that's great. Yeah. All the way back then, huh? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And bring that. So I love that. That's a great flex of the property from a marketing standpoint. I would definitely encourage you, I'm going to give you a little bit of homework, not that you asked for it, of what would be the flex from a thought leadership? What does that make you an expert in? Does it make you, when it comes to what I think is my immediate thought, and I could be totally wrong, is, the idea of like, how do you plan at something that also is a public space for other things? That's where my brain's thinking. But think about that. Like, what would be with that? So thank you. How about anybody back here? I saw you had your hand raised there, or did you not? No, I'm calling on you. Yeah. You wouldn't tell me anyways? Yeah. Well, you also have the food and beverage. You've got the beverage side of it as well. And people don't know about wines. They just don't. And what pairs and what makes sense and what's in all the things with all of that too. So, but also that weekend experience. I love that. What I love about the destination weekend experience type stuff is that the world's your oyster in terms of thought leadership. I mean, talking about where to host, like, do you do a welcome brunch or a welcome party or a goodbye brunch or, insert event there. Cool. Thank you. Thanks for your brave. So anybody else? Are we good? Oh yeah. Yes, absolutely. With that, when it comes to the corporate, it's so much harder than people realize. As someone who used to do the corporate side as well, I love that. What's really appealing about some of the flexes and stuff you're telling me is I get excited for you to think that there are not enough people in the thought leadership space in that world. So we'll have to talk. Make sure you email me because I have like thoughts about where you need to be. So awesome. Okay, I'm going to give coffee to two people. I love the weekend stuff. So come to me. And then my brave soul over here who spoke, even though you're like, I didn't raise my hand, but I will. So you should get coffee as well. So come see me afterwards. We'll take care of you. Last but not least, we're going to do a few just quick round robin here. What outlets appeal to me if you want to say why as well? How many people put Martha Stewart weddings? Just out of curiosity. Really? Martha Stewart weddings. I had some people, did anybody put Vogue? Because I usually get those. Vogue. How about the Knot? New York Times. Okay. How about local? Did people say local? That makes sense as well. Let's just do a quick, everybody give me one as they see fit. Anybody from this table? Oh, over here. I'm sorry. You'll start here and then we'll go all the way around. Oh, interesting. There's a bunch down there. Uh-huh. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. That's interesting. I mean, down the road, I'm sitting here thinking you should do a whole fam, bring all the planners up or something like that. That's $1 billion, but it's a fun idea to think about. How about over here? Do we have any outlets you want to throw out at me? That's okay. Podcast. Okay, so podcasts in general, and it's a matter of narrowing down for, and of course, we talk B2C versus B2B. We'll get into that. There's a podcast guide coming your way. Okay, see. Anybody have any outlets over here they want to shout out at me? Oh yeah, those guys are the nicest people. The people who run Arizona Bride, Iron Diamond Media, nicest human. So okay, very good. Their reputation precedes them in their market. I think that's great. Anybody else over here? Are we? Ah, very nice. So would that make sense for from women owned? Is a thought is for those who are engaged. Those are hosting milestone events, things like that. Yeah, great. Just like we were talking about over here. Thank you. How about over here? Any quick shout outs? Tom says, the Knot. And he's like, who said that? Anybody over here? New other media? Yeah, that's wonderful. So when it comes to, and I appreciate that. So a couple things on the thoughts there. Style Me Pretty won't do articles where you get featured, but they do weddings all the time, and they do them in volume. I have all the metrics of that, and it's a lot. So there's a lot of opportunity there. Martha Stewart Weddings, I'm going to break hearts for just a second. A bit of a rumor floating around. First of all, they have an abundance of articles, which is amazing. The last time I checked Martha Stewart and had it, not her personally, she's out on the road with Snoop Dogg right now, but the editorial staff, they have not published a wedding since August of last year, which that is a significant period of time of not having a feature. Here to break anybody's oh, Tom, would you like to? I watch it too. Tom and I sit there all day just staring at the screen, pressing refresh, waiting but I tell you that, not to dishearten anybody, but because they still have the form up, but they haven't had staff in place since August, which is coincident. Articles. You want to go after it with articles. So there's still opportunity there as well. So very good. I thought Tom was going to give us more tea than that. I was ready. I was texting with her yesterday. All right. Thank you. Yes, that's great. You want, yeah, please. If you are in that market, I'm so glad you brought that up, and thank you. And if you want to drop me an email later, I don't have it as part of my sources, but I have a great Q&A on pitching to TV that I'd be happy to share with you. Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that because you bring up a great point, and then we're going to move on. Is if you are very hard, you sit there and say, you know what, this audience is for me, and it's the people, you're in a position where the parents are still heavy financiers, then yeah, you look at the media outlets that they're looking at. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and move on here. So when it comes to, as we talked about, the idea of narrowing your focus, which is what we did, where we're looking for podcasts, we're looking for Sell Me Pretty, and so on and so forth. You start thinking about your flexes, which we all need to work on, and kind of flesh out a little bit more. This is the number one thing when it comes to pitching. You need to match your flex to the beat. And what was your name? Wait, Alan? I'm gonna use you as an example if you don't mind. Alan said something interesting. What I mean by flex to the beat, the most strategic thing you can do is to make sure you are reaching out to the people who actually care what you know about. I pitch to wedding writers, the end. I don't go, now, Alan, I don't know your relationship with the sports writer, so I'm just going to use an example though. I learned this early on, believe it or not. I worked in newspapers back in the day, and I remember we had a sports guy who covered all the things. I did my first media interview with him when I was like 15. It was adorable. I have a photo of it, but he would lament because people would pitch him all the time, but not related to his beat. The beat is their area of specialty that they cover. Hannah at the Knot covers weddings, the end. Writers who cover weddings, but only beauty, but only planning, but only catering, and so forth. But what was interesting about Ken was he was in sports, and people would try and pitch their small businesses to him, and he's like, that's not what unless they're very good friends, of course, then do it. But I always say, the key is to find the writers who would benefit from knowing you. At the end of the day, the writers don't have enough resources. They don't have enough sources. They don't have enough time. They need people who are reliable. I'm going to do a quick exercise. It's hard to read, so I'm going to go ahead and do this for you. We've got 3 writers. These are actual 3 writers, just different pictures to protect their identity here. I'm going to tell you recent articles for each of them. I need you to remember this. Samantha, talking about floral ideas, color palettes, outdoor themes, color combos, okay? But Jacqueline with her food trends, all about mocktails, wedding cake alternatives. You've got Lauren who's talking about venue trends, all about, keep losing this, all about tents, decor trends, okay? Of the 3 of them, and we're going to see if we can remember this. If you're a venue, who makes the most sense? Lauren, the venue trends. If I'm Anthony in catering, Anthony, is he going to be pitching to Samantha on floral ideas, Jacqueline with the food trends, or Lauren on the venues? Who is Anthony? Anthony, how about you answer for Anthony? How about what? How about Jacqueline? Yes, Jacqueline. She wants to know the food trends as well. For Samantha, floral ideas, color palettes, outdoor themes, color combos. Who should be pitching Samantha? Planners, florists, designers. If you have a design team, then go for it. I certainly didn't, so it wouldn't have made sense. This is the key most of the time. Unless you're best friends with the sports director of insert media here, you are pitching the people who make the most sense as a courtesy. Here's the thing. What do I do with this, Megan? You're giving me all this information. I'm writing down the media, what I want to pitch. Let's talk about how you actually do it. Now, I am going to give you an enormous amount of videos and guides to actually do this, but I'm going to keep it easy for today because I want to keep it not overwhelming. I want to keep it underwhelming for you and say, I can do this. You start looking at the Knot, brides.com, bridal guide. You start looking at local magazines, the women-owned businesses, the corporate, and so forth. You find the writers who would most benefit from knowing your expertise, the people who write about the venues, who write about whether it's the colors, and so forth. You need to find the writers with your internet stalking, find their email. This is what you're going to do. It's the world's easiest email. Subject line, expert introduction. You are going to write them 3 paragraphs. I'll give you all the sources stuff on this, so you don't have to worry about writing it down. Hi, name. It could be good morning, good afternoon, whatever you want. Don't be too casual. Like, hey, girl. You don't want to do that. Just like, hi, Amy. Amy's my fake name. I hope this finds you well. I see that you cover venue trends at brides.com, and I want to take a moment to reach out as I think I could be a good fit in the future. I'd love to be able to help you out as an expert resource. Middle paragraph, 2 lines, dazzle them. My name is Meghan Ely. I'm the owner of ABC, blah, blah, blah. I've been in business 10 years. In particular, my specialties are destinations, weekend celebrations, and the latest venue trends. Last paragraph, tell them how you're going to make it super easy on them. In addition to that, I belong to WIPA. I belong to this. I belong to, you've got this lovely membership, right? I belong to things, and I can certainly help connect you with other wedding professionals as well. That is it. Introduce yourself. 3 things, 3 options will happen. 1, they'll love you and say, oh my gosh, thanks so much. I'd love to use you. That's best case scenario. You also may never hear from them ever. In between, the more realistic is they're going to write you when they need you. I pitched Pop Sugar one time, and then they wrote me 9 months later to the date, on a Friday no less, needing help with 2 articles. Try getting any of y'all to do anything on a Friday in the busy season. I was like, I don't know. I mean, we made it happen. But I was like, this is terrible timing. But you can hear from them. Drop them an email. Now, we had some podcasts as well. I want to talk about this very briefly. How many folks listen to podcasts on the regular to a degree? A little bit. We all know what podcasts are. So that's at least that. I don't have to define that anymore. Let me tell you, this is how people are taking in their information. And by people, I mean your intended audience. It's going to be video. It's going to be podcasts. We monitor over 100 wedding and event podcasts globally. Okay. The world is your oyster. I'm going to give you resources on how to pitch to Bridezilla, which is one of the top national. I was just on it this week about trends. It's pretty fun, but this is what you're going to be looking for. If you are someone who is talkative, if you are someone who doesn't feel like writing's your thing, that's fine. If you're someone who can spare 45 minutes plus about 15 minutes of prep to be able to sit down, be camera ready. I had to feed my cats an extra breakfast when I do podcasts because they're like running around. So you feed your animals, you go into a quiet room and be interviewed. This is the way for you. Have a conversation. As we learned from Splendid Insights, couples are looking at your expertise, which is what we've talked about today. But you know what they also want to know? They want your personality, especially anyone they have to spend the day with. Florists and cake people don't have to leverage their personality as much as the venues and the planners and the photographers because you're there all day with them. Podcasts are the way to go. When it comes to podcasts, I'll give you a guide to do this. There are a number of places. There are people here who have podcasts that you can talk to. Meghan Gilligan, don't swarm her all at once. She's amazing, but she's got a podcast. There are podcasts out there. Most of these podcasts will simply have a form where you can pitch yourself. You take a look at what they've covered in the last 6 to 12 months, and then you think, how can I lend to this conversation? Is there something I'm trying to solve? Do I see conundrums among couples that I thought, God, if I could just spend 30 minutes talking to someone about this on a podcast, this could solve it. That's what you want to do. All right. At the end of the day, the best advice I ever got from Ali Wolonsky, who is one of the top freelancers in the country. We share mutual love and bonding over royals. We were very close during all the royal wedding stuff, right? I interviewed her one time and said, Ali, talk about pitching yourself to the media. If you had one tip you could give, and she goes, stop trying so hard. We don't have to try. We're all human at the end of the day. Simply write us and let us know you're available to be an actual resource. Now, I want to take just a couple of minutes to talk about the low-hanging fruit, because the fact of the matter is, in your world, you are getting wedding features, for example, because the planner's pitching the how many folks have received wedding features, even whether you're surprised or not, because someone else has pitched them for you? That probably have. I'm going to tell you right now, here's a quick and easy little tip. Talk Walker alerts. Write that down if you can. It's free. It will take 30 seconds. Sign up for Talk Walker alerts and put your company's name in quotation marks. Every time you're mentioned online, it will pop up, for better or for worse. It will pop up. The fact is, wedding features will go live, and a lot of times you're not told about it. You get tagged on Instagram, and you're like, what is this? I would tell you, if I was a venue, my number one tip, the easiest tip I could give you, get a Talk Walker alert on the name of the venue so you're aware of what's coming in, so that you can leverage. The question is, well, if I didn't do the pitching, does it count? Yes. Yes, if you guys were featured, it absolutely counts. So you want to make sure, as a venue, I feel very strongly about this, is that you need to take the time to make sure you're tracking it and that you've got a plan in place to make sure you're sharing it on social, you're sharing it with a reel, you're putting it on a press page. If you want to be a media's favorite, there are 3 things I need you to think about. 1, you need to pay attention. PR, everyone thinks, is about, and yes, we talk about email and pitching. We think it's us with a megaphone talking about our venues and our expertise. 90% of the time, you're paying attention. 90% of the time, you're just listening in. You need to follow the rules. I grew up in a scary Catholic school setting with scary, scary nuns, and I learned very early the importance of rules, and that has carried on into this world. When writers come to you and you start forming these relationships, they are going to say, I need you to answer this in 3 to 5 sentences, and they mean it. How many times do I have to go to my clients when they fill something out and I'm like, I can't use this because you didn't answer this question, or you didn't give me a link to it. The last couple of days we've been looking for photos for a New York Post article, but the photos have to be in Google Drive or Dropbox. People keep sending me Instagram. I'm like, stop. That's not what I asked for. So you want to be careful with that. Follow the rules. Pretend you too are a Catholic school alum scared by the nuns and just follow the rules. Finally, never miss a deadline. I'm going to tell a scary story about Tom and my mutual friend, Hannah. The scary story is I'm the villain in it. Let me tell you. When he mentions Hannah, she's literally one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And I would say that if he was not in the room. She's amazing. And a bunch of years ago, Hannah wrote me and said, hey, I need your help on an article about rustic centerpieces. In addition, I have these, and I think it was like 5 or 6 floral articles she needs help with. Now, anyone who's ever worked with a florist will tell you, florists are impossible to like nail down. They don't email ever. Sorry if there's any, maybe you guys, if you have a floral team that emails, you are literally the first. Like I can't ever get them to respond to me. So I'm a little panicked, but I'm like, I'm going to get this done. So I go after my florists who are traveling all over, nail them down, I interview, I get everything to Hannah early. I never miss a deadline. And she very sweetly says, thanks so much for these. What about the rustic centerpieces article? My stomach fell into my butt and I almost vomited on the spot. That is not me over, no, I almost died on the spot. Rest in peace me. She missed her first deadline out of thousands of deadlines. I'm blubbering to Hannah. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like it just floods and comes out of me. And she is like, it's fine. You can have another day. Very sweetly. It's fine. You can have another day. I am such a disaster by the end of this. She actually kindly sent me a handwritten note afterwards and sent me like, because I'm a mess. Like she's like taking care of me at the end of the day. But the reason I was given that credit and that extension was because I had done hundreds without ever missing a deadline. I can't stress enough the importance of being that reliable person. It's no different than the planner meeting your deadlines to get you what you need. It's the same thing. I need you to remember this too. Press only lives as long as you allow it to. So that's why I want you tracking the wedding features. That's why I want you to be able to leverage what's coming out. The fact is, I'm throwing out here and there places we've been featured because I know I'm the one who's allowing the press to continue to live on. And so I want you to be mindful of this. On your website, there's a few quick things I want you thinking about. Putting on your website the sexy as seen in. Once you have 3 to 5, I'd say probably 3 to 5 logos that you're particularly proud of, press, you want to get that on the homepage of your site. You need a dedicated press page at some point. I'm going to send you a very dorky, wonderful conversation all about press pages along with a checklist. You are going to want to have a social media strategy. Once you get featured, it's up to you to make sure that you're leveraging it. We work with Twickenham, and they did a really great job here. It's hard to see, but what they chose to do is just a smattering here of logos for you to take a look at. We work with the Treasury on the Plaza down in Florida, and they've got a full, wonderful press page here of the work that we've done together. And I'm going to give you, there you go. Shout out to Florida here. Lots of great venues. And then what you'll see on the PDF when you're able to grab it is Meghan Mansion is someone we worked with for a long time. And they don't do as much in terms of press pages, but what they do is they have a dedicated features. You can see here at the top, if you can see it, and it's going to be Insta stories that they dedicate to their features. No one else is going to be singing your praises. It's going to be up to you. If you're going to do the hard work, you need to make sure people know about it. Making sure that you've got the plan. A lot of us are doing our own social media. So it's going to be a matter of making sure you educate yourself, you have the right team in place, or you're educating yourself on how to do it so that you can make sure press continues to live on. You'll be able to check this out a little bit more later, but there's really some great examples here. Fantasy Sound Event Services, they actually do lighting. You would work them in the California market if you were out there. They have a wonderful, very strong game when it comes to stories. They have these Canva templates that you can just insert your press features and be able to include the link. For ourselves, we actually do recaps to be able to showcase. We put it together with CapCut, which has been an amazing resource too. But at the end of the day, because I know my time is officially up, right on time here. Look at me. I want to end with a quote that is from some profound person, but instead I'm going to quote my Peloton instructor. The fact is, at the end of the day, forward is forward. We spent the last 80 minutes going through a lot of stuff. And the fact is, some of it's going to make sense and resonate, and some of it won't. And it gets overwhelming on top of all the other great talks you're going to have throughout the day and yesterday and tomorrow as well. And the fact is, we can't do everything. We're going to get overwhelmed. I would encourage you to consider this. Forward is forward. Everything is layered. Think of one thing that you can take away from today and move with. Maybe it's the Talk Walker Alert. 30 seconds, you feel like you've done something, and that's great. I would encourage you to do that. Maybe it's just getting this down on paper. What I've included in here, which you can take a lot later, I've included a page on SMART goals, on how to create SMART goals for PR and really walk you through it. And we also did a PR audit where it's like, hey, we had over here, you guys were talking about podcasts over here, right? So it's kind of a category, podcast. What I'm doing well? Well, I'm starting to do my research. Where I need improvement? What are my goals? Start to outline those. Work on that brand. Start looking at some of the, I think you'll get an email series about 4 or 5 where it's just going to be a wealth of different resources. Take what you want from it. The podcast stuff. I have an interview with the New York Times writer about how to pitch to them. And so the question is, where do we go from here? And like I said, taking all this information and determine what makes the most sense for you. Take these little steps along the way, and of course, never hesitate to reach out. So what I'm including here, I hope people can see it. We can probably email it out to them as well, is this QR code is going to, you can actually do it right on my computer as well. This QR code is literally, I just built it out for you guys, and it is going to be everything you've ever needed on the PR side. Not all of it's going to fit everybody, but it's certainly going to be incredibly helpful to be able to take those steps. Yes? Wait, say again? Yes, Haro, may it rest in peace. Quoted is what people are using now. So thank you for bringing that up. If you are looking to get more general press, to get some of those links, to get some business stuff, and on occasion weddings, there's something free called Quoted, Quoted. And I do believe I share something on that in the email series as well. It's a free program where you can sign up and get emails daily with press opportunities from writers who are already working on things. It's called Quoted, Quoted. I'm still a big believer at the end of the day that the good old-fashioned outreach works very well, but if you're looking to kind of expedite that, then Quoted can absolutely do that. Thank you. That's what people are using these days a little bit. Not uses it actually sometimes. So wonderful. I'm going to leave, my next slide is just a thank you. Because this is a little bit harder to see, I'm going to leave this up. You can pull up the QR code from my computer as well. I want to thank you for your time and your energy today. I will be here. Go ahead. Thank you. Sign up if you want a one-on-one. We can talk about pitching, leveraging press, all the things. So thank you so much. We'll leave that up for a second if that's okay. Okay, thank you.